When you look at all of the theories on how to write, very few of them talk about a really basic principle, the principle of because I said so. The first time I thought about this, I was looking at a drawing by Picasso. I was thinking, how did he know the line would come out exactly like that? And I suddenly realized he didn't. Now, I don't get genius points here because clearly the whole purpose of this drawing is making you see how impulsive it is. But still, he did not know exactly how the line would come out. He had faith in the gesture, in the process. All he knew was that it would be his line in that moment, and that would be all right. I think this makes most of us uncomfortable, but creative work has to be personal and somewhat irrational. And when you get too systematic or businesslike or theoretical, when you look away from yourself too much, you take the art out of it. Even hyper-rational artists like Mondrian or hyper-commercial artists like Michael Bay are making 1,000 personal and irrational choices within a very strict set of rules. Now, I know I spend a lot of time here talking about the mechanics of art, and I do believe that an artist has to be a mechanic in many ways, but that's the form, that's the body. There's something else operating as well. The spirit. You can call it talent, you can call it vision. It's the part where I do things because I said so. Sometimes the worst reason is the best plan. Now, people in the business don't like to talk about this because it means that the entertainment industry is irrational and unpredictable, which unfortunately is the truth. And just in general, art is irrational and personal feels like kind of an icky thing to say because for a few hundred years the standard take on art was that it came from this grotesquely romanticized vision of the impulsive genius, which really brought out the worst in a lot of people. So, an essential fact about making art got tangled up with excuses and justifications for bad behavior. A lot of the work of being an artist is learning how to trust and work from your feelings and instincts without becoming a destructive asshole. And a lot of teachers don't like to talk about how personal art is because it feels like that can't be taught. But while I can't teach you what your impulses should be, I do think it's important to teach you that the process of accessing and working with your instincts is part of the job. You can't make an artistic choice just by checking a rule book or copying other work. To do creative work, you need to be in touch with your thoughts and feelings. All that irrational, embarrassing, vulnerable, inner stuff. This does not mean anything goes and anything you do is right. Instinct is not everything. It isn't the end of the process. It's what you apply all that skill and craft and theory to. Doing creative work means you have to learn how to be irrational in a systematic, mechanical way, and learn how to survive being emotional and self-centered and irrational as part of your work routine. So let's talk about how you get comfortable with and competent at making instinctive choices. First, recognize that instinct is a necessary part of the work. This is not something you're imposing on an otherwise reasonable system. It's required. Give yourself permission. Consciously allow yourself to follow your own impulses. When you have to make a choice and you find yourself struggling, when you can't think of what to do, try consciously thinking, maybe the solution here is just whatever I decide it is. Accept that your choices will come from a wide variety of places inside yourself. Your memories and fears and beliefs and theories and experiences and all the stuff you've ever loved or hated. That messy pile of raw material is the place you should go to get stuff to work with. And this may be most important. Learn to listen to yourself. We are taught all our lives to be rational and reasonable and not operate from our feelings. Feelings are scary. They can be selfish. They go out of control. They make people uncomfortable. So listening to them is not easy. It's something that most people have to work at. It's not just the first thing that pops into your head. You will not always know what you want. You will feel self-conscious. You will ask yourself, is that really my instinct? Is that my best instinct? It takes practice to recognize the feeling of creative choice. And there really is no other way to describe it. It is just a feeling. And sometimes it's just a feeling that something is a little bit more right than anything else. So practice listening to your feelings. Sometimes it'll work out well, sometimes it won't. Just keep doing it over and over. Lower the pressure. Work on this stuff when no one is looking, when you have time and privacy. And seriously, what's the worst that can happen? You make some bad art, somebody doesn't like it. Who cares? Get used to that, it's part of the game. When it's difficult, try to identify the source of negative voices in your head. If you are thinking, this is bad, this will fail, oh, you're blowing it, you're actually not working. Here's something to think about. I've never heard of a single instance when creativity was negative. I don't mean that you have to create cheerful, uplifting stuff. Your work can be mean and angry and upsetting, but the process is always, oh, cool, this will be fun. Oh, this is great. Oh, this will be better. So if you're full of negative thoughts while you work, stop and ask, where is that voice coming from? Is it yours, or is it something you're afraid of? Someone you think you have to please, or something you think you're supposed to be doing? Those voices are not always wrong. You do need to revise your work, but they only help after you have been creative. So let's make this practical. When you're scared or overwhelmed with negative thoughts, just tell yourself, I will judge this later. And do that. Look at it later. When it's just a thing in a world of things, then you can ask what was right about it and what wasn't. Now, trusting your instinct does not mean the only thing you listen to is yourself. Screenwriting is an especially collaborative profession, and you do actually have to get good at following rules and taking notes and doing what you're told. I personally think that when you get really good at the inner voice, when you become truly confident that you will be there for you, it's a lot easier to hear what anyone else has to say. I also think there's a pretty simple test for whether you're being a defensive jerk. Do you ever agree with anyone's criticism? If everybody else is wrong all the time, that's on you. Use your newfound access to your thoughts and feelings when you're getting advice or criticism. Learn to notice when you're feeling it's personal, and notice when they're right. You'll often feel it when it makes sense, it clicks. You feel, oh yeah, that is a place where I wasn't sure. Or, oh yeah, I kinda hope no one would notice that. Oh, and by the way, if you have the opposite problem, if you think everyone else is right all the time and you take every note that anyone gives you, your work is going to suck and your head is going to explode because everybody has an opinion, none of them will agree, and it never ends. Okay, so great. You're going to love yourself and your work. What could possibly go wrong? Well, for one thing, you have to get good enough to make your instincts work. You have to be practical and hardworking and determined and strong. You have to commit and see it through over and over. And you have to take responsibility. They're your choices. You have to say, yep, that's what it is, and I did it. And you have to be willing to fail. So much of what we do when we go against our instincts is really just desperately trying to avoid failure. Wouldn't it be better to just admit it's possible? In fact, it's likely. Because it is, and living with that is part of being an artist. When you follow your instincts, be prepared for the fact that some people will not like what you do. Learning to create from your instincts is not necessarily a path to success. But as far as I can tell, it's your best shot. I think this may be the most important, useful thing I can tell you. Your work will be what it will be. You can be a fan, of all kinds of amazing things, and the business can want what it wants and believe that it knows what will succeed. You can learn to write in the formula of the moment and try to sell or impress. You can train yourself to be better at skills. But in the end, you really only can do what you can do. No one can tell you what your work is going to be. It will succeed in some ways and fail in others, and none of it will be entirely what you expect. Figure out what you do well and what you like, and do it as well as you can. Figure out how to survive while you do what you do. Try to plan a path that will make the most of what you do. But in the end, all you can know is that it will be your line in that moment. And that will be all right. All right, that's enough for now. Go write something. If you liked this video, like this video and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to work with me on your projects one-on-one, go to writingforscreens.com. Got me in focus there, Mr. Automatic Camera Lens thing? I like this. Oh, hey. I did this shoulder thing. What is it, crop dusting? Okay, now it's a jet. It is low-flying airplane day here in California. Now, this one's a hard one. This was a long hunk, a lot of words. All right, that, you have to.